Good morning, sir. My name is Ogi Rafael, and I am going to report about John Bowlby. In full name, he is Edward John Mostyn Bowlby, born in February 26, 1907, at London, England. He died at September 2, 1990, at Isle of Skye in Scotland. He is British developmental psychologist and psychiatrist best known as the originator of attachment theory, which posits an innate need in very young children to develop a close emotional. Attachment theory. Attachment theory is psychology originates with the seminal work of John Bowlby in 1958. In the 1990s, John Bowlby worked as psychiatrist in a child guidance clinic in London, where he treated many emotionally disturbed children. This experience led Bowlby to consider the importance of child's relationship with their mother in terms of their social, emotional, and cognitive development. Specifically, it shaped his belief about the link between early infant separation with the mother and later maladjustment, and led Bowlby to formulate his attachment theory. Bowlby defined attachment as a lasting psychological connectedness between human beings. Bowlby in 1958 proposed that attachment can be understood within an evolutionary context in that the caregiver provides safety and security for the infant. Attachment is adaptive as it enhances the infant's chance of survival. In 1935 and Harlow 1958, according to Bowlby, infants have a universal need to seek close proximity with their caregiver when under stress or threatened in Glasser at 2006. Stages of attachment. Rudolf Schaffer and Fige Emerson in 1964 investigated if attachment develops through a series of stages by studying 60 babies at monthly intervals. For the first 18 months of life, this is known as a longitudinal study. The children were all studied in their own home, and a regular pattern was identified in the development of attachment. The babies were visited monthly for approximately 1 year. Their interaction with their carers were observed and carers were interviewed. A diary was kept by the mother to examine the evidence for the development of attachment. Three measures were recorded. First is the stranger anxiety. This is response to arrival of a stranger. Second, separation anxiety. Distress level when separated from carer, degree of comfort needed on return. And the last is social referencing. Degree that child looks at carer to check how they should respond to something new or secure base. They discover that babies' attachments develop in the following sequence. A social 0 to 6 weeks. Very young infants are asocial in that many kinds of stimuli, both social and non-social, produce a favorable reaction such as a smile. Infants indiscriminately enjoy human company and must maybe respond equally to any caregiver. They get upset when an individual ceases to interact with them. From 3 months, infants smile more at familiar faces and can be easily comfortable by a regular caregiver. Specific attachment 7 to 9 months. A special preference for a single attachment figure. The baby looks to particular people for security, comfort, and protection. It shows fear of stranger or stranger fear. and unhappiness when separated from a special person or separation anxiety. Some babies show stranger fear and separation anxiety much more frequently and intensely than others. Nevertheless, they are seen as evidence that the baby has formed an attachment. This has usually developed by 1 year of age. Multiple attachment, 10 months and onwards. Many of the babies from the scupper and immersion study had multiple attachment by 10 months old, including attachment to mother, father, grandparents, siblings, and neighbors. The baby becomes increasingly independent and forms several attachments by 18 months. The majority of infants have formed multiple attachment. The multiple attachment formed by most infants vary in their strength and importance to the infant attachments are obtained structured in a hierarchy whereby an infant may have formed three attachments, but one may be stronger than the oath may be the weakest, two and one. The result of the study indicated that attachments were most likely to form with those who responded accurately to the baby's signals, not the person they spent more time with. Scupper and immersion called this sensitive responsiveness. Intensely attached infants had mothers who responded quickly to their demands and interact with their child. Infants who were weakly attached had mother who failed to interact. The result of the study indicated that attachment were most likely to form with those who responded accurately to the baby signals, not the person they spent more time with. Scupper and immersion called this sensitive responsiveness. And intensely attached infants had mothers who responded quickly to their demands and interact with their child. Infants who were weakly attached had mothers who failed to interact. The most important fact in forming attachment is not who feeds and changes the child, but who plays and communicates with him or her. Therefore, sensitive responsiveness to the baby signals appeared to be the key to attachment. Bowlby suggested that a child would initially form only one primary attachment, monotropy, and the attachment figure act as a secure base for exploring the world. The attachment relationship acts as prototype for all future social relationships to so disrupt them it can have severe consequences. This theory also suggests that there is a critical period for developing an attachment, about 0 to 5 years. If an attachment has not developed during this period, then the child will suffer from irreversible developmental consequences such as reduced intelligence and increased aggression. This is my another attachment theories. Psychologists have proposed two main theories that are believed to be important in forming attachments. Learning theory of attachment proposed that all behavior is learned rather than an innate biological behavior, as children are born blank slates. Behaviorists focus their explanation on behaviors which is learned through either classical or operating conditioning. Classical conditioning was firstly investigated by Pavlov in 1927. Certain things, such as an infant's mother, can become associated with food as they are consistently present each time an infant is fed during an infant's first months of life, which is known as the neutral stimuli. Once the neutral stimuli, which in this context is the mother present while the infant is fed during an infant's first months of life, which is known as the neutral stimuli. Once the neutral stimuli, which in the context is the mother present while the child is eating, is consistently associated with unconditioned stimulus and will eventually produce the same response. Mm, the mother then becomes a learned conditioned stimulus and produce a conditioned response. This then results in the mother once seen by the infant gives the child a sense of pleasure which is a conditioned response. This is attachment by classical conditioning. Number one, before conditioning, food is unconditioned stimulus to happy baby unconditioned response. Number two, during conditioning, mother food unconditioned plus food is unconditioned stimulus to happy baby is unconditioned response. Number three, after conditioning, mother is conditioned stimulus to happy baby condition response. The next is operant conditioning was first investigated by Skinner and then further investigated by Dollard and Miller in 1950 in regard of attachment and drive reduction theory, which describes something that motivates behavior. This was then investigated as when an infant is hungry, there is a drive to reduce the discomfort which happens as a result. Once the child is fed, this produces a feeling of pleasure which is positive reinforcement. Behavior which is rewarded by food is repeated and food becomes the primary reinforcer as it is associated with a reward and reinforces the behavior. Becomes a secondary reinforcer as they become the source of the reward. Conclusively, the attachment occurs because the child associates the person who supplies the food with rewards and seek them. The evolutionary theory of attachment, Bowlby, Harlow, Lawrence, suggests that children come into the world biologically pre-programmed to form attachments with others because this will help them to survive. The infant produces innate social releaser behaviors such as crying and smiling that stimulate innate caregiving responses from adults. The determinant of attachment is not food, but care and responsiveness. Bowlby suggested that a child would initially form only one primary attachment, or monotrophy, and that the attachment features act as a secure base for exploring the world. The attachment relationship acts as a prototype for all future social relationships, so disrupting it can have severe consequences. This theory also suggests that there is a critical period for developing an attachment about 0 to 5 years. If an attachment has not developed during this period, then the child will suffer from irreversible developmental consequences such as reduced intelligence and increased aggression. Thank you.